Dear viewers, I'm the hungry therapist and I love to cook. I'm a therapist by day and a wannabe chef by night. I work, I cook, I travel, and I obnoxiously yet proudly call myself a gastro-tourist. Except we shouldn't be traveling during the pandemic. And I eat. Cooking is therapeutic. It's my stress release. It brings me joy and I share that with the people I love. Now I want to share that love with others.
Here's how it works. You send me a question and I will respond with advice in the form of a recipe, as well as some advice sprinkled throughout the episode. Now, the whole point of this is for you to cook alongside me. So be sure to check the episode descriptions on YouTube so you can grab your ingredients and we can cook together. Welcome to Advice with a Side of Rice.
Dear Rasha, I'm dating a good man, but the sexual chemistry and intimacy is just not there. He's very unsexual and has a lower sex drive. Should I continue to date him? From Sexually Frustrated. Dear Sexually Frustrated, I think it's impossible to meet someone with all the right qualities. No one is perfect, but you do need to figure out which qualities are most important to you, and you do need to have a conversation with him. Let's dive into that while we cook. From Rasha with Love.
Disclaimer, this is for entertainment purposes only, does not constitute medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek advice from your doctor and mental health professionals. By sending an email to RashaWithLove@outlook.com, you are acknowledging this is lighthearted, for entertainment only, and are agreeing for your emails to be used on this channel and IGTV.
Hi, I'm Rasha, the hungry therapist, and here's your advice with a side of rice. So the first thing I want to do is bust a sex myth so that you can bust a nut. I don't know if we're gonna keep that in. So here's the thing. There's this huge misconception about male sexuality that's been embedded in our heads for I don't even know how long. There's this belief that men are so sexual that they're always up for it. They'll fuck anything, anytime, anywhere, and there's no emotions involved. It's just a purely physical act, and that it's just as simple as that. And that is not true. Male sexuality is actually quite complicated, and there's a lot of things involved in there. This idea that men are horny 24 hours a day is very harmful to everybody. It's harmful for the man because there's such a high expectation, and that expectation, if he's not able to meet it, it could make a person feel like there's something not right with them, that they're not manly enough. It creates things like performance anxiety, and that's exactly what it is. So then the person is performing instead of experiencing, and sex is an experience, it's not a performance. And then it's damaging to their partners because a lot of the times people take this personally and think that it's a reflection of how attractive they are or how desirable they are, and it's really not the case. But this is something that you have to talk about sex. Sex is something you have to talk about, and it doesn't have to be such a tough conversation because it can be really fun and it leads to a lot of great things in the end. But because everyone has such different sex drives, which anyone who's sexually active has probably seen that in certain relationships, they might have the higher sex drive than the other person. But the other thing is we tend to make assumptions if we're not talking about people. So just because someone is having sex at a frequency that goes along with yours, that doesn't necessarily mean that their sex drive is at the same level. They're just not you guys aren't talking about it. But I do want to read you one quick thing from Esther Perel. Okay, so the most common misconception about male versus female sexuality is that men are creatures of nature, while women are creatures of meaning. Biology drives him, emotions drive her. While we say women are so complex, we need to remember that men are not so simple. I'm just gonna skip down. Saddled with these narrow ideas of sexuality, we suffer through unfulfilled sexual and emotional needs, and our relationships pay the price. And then she explores ways that how this common script can be turned on its head. So I'm gonna link this because it's an awesome article. It's just a page and it's really good. But basically what she's saying that for everybody, sex is never just sex. Even if it's a one-night stand or like a quick whatever, sex is never just sex, and it is a lot more complicated. This is an awesome part. She even says it takes a lot of emotions to make sex emotionless. So think about that for a moment. There are men out there who actually need intimacy and emotional intimacy. And when that builds, so does the sexuality, because then there's comfort, there's emotions involved. So increasing emotional intimacy is very important, and it's good for your relationship, and it's good for you too. And this is why I'm choosing a couple of recipes for you that I think would be really fun to make, because building intimacy is spending time together, doing activities together, opening up, being vulnerable. So I think there's something really sexy about cooking together, and it's a lot of fun, and I'm being very ambitious with this recipe, and I'm actually really nervous about it because I think I'm gonna fuck it up. But part of the fun of cooking together is messing up together, because that's when you can laugh and try again, and it's actually a good way to test how you work together too. So we're gonna do a couple of great things. We're gonna do one of my favorite soups, saffron mussel soup, and we're gonna get a little ambitious with the next one, which is, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, ravioli al uvo, which is ravioli with egg inside. Wish me luck, and I wish you guys luck. And I'm actually putting the the instructions in the episode description, which I don't normally do. Well, sorry. I've only had one episode. I don't plan on doing this. But I'm gonna do it for you because I don't think you should be watching this video while you cook with him on your date, because I'm gonna be talking about some things that, shouldn't. And there's millions of people who are having the same issue, so this person won't necessarily, a lot of people watching will have the same thing, so I hope people don't take it as as like a hint if you're watching it together and cooking together. Okay, let's get started on the saffron mussel soup, and let's talk about sex, baby. No? Okay. Okay, so for this recipe, you have your mussels, your saffron. Please do not forget to put saffron in this. And if you didn't buy saffron, do not make this, because I've forgotten to put it in, and it basically tastes like milk with mussels, and that's disgusting. So don't do that. So you need your mussels, saffron, fennel, carrots, leeks, tomatoes, and you can do red onions or what is their Shire family member called? I'll remember it and I'll put the name of it. Okay, and then you need 2 cups of chicken broth. Why did I sound like a chicken when I said that? 2 cups of chicken broth. A cup of wine. 3 tablespoons of butter. A half a cup of whipping cream. I've made this with skim milk and it's just as good. So, and some fresh herbs. So I'm doing rosemary, oregano, and thyme. And then you need a teaspoon of peppercorns. I hope I'm not forgetting anything, but if you looked at the ingredients list, you're good. Tomato. Okay, so let's start chopping these up. So get your leek, cut off the stem. We're gonna do this part, and then I don't know why people don't like using the leaves. We're gonna use, you can use 1 or 2. So the first thing that came to mind when I was reading the email was, did this guy say he has a low sex drive? Or are you making the assumption that he has a low sex drive? Because those are 2 very different things. Also, I mean, I'm the kind of person where it takes time to build my trust, and I kind of take things people say to me at the beginning of a relationship with a grain of salt until I get to know them and their character a little bit better. Because a lot of times guys will say that they have a low sex drive, and meanwhile they are feverishly masturbating every night to their favorite porn star. So there's other things going on there. So if he actually does have a lower sex drive, that's not caused by something else, you can still work around that. If he is not that interested in sex because of, if, you know, he's going through some like stress right now, or if it's self-esteem issues or things to do with performance anxiety, or, sorry, I have a hard time talking and cooking at the same time because I lose my train of thought. Maybe this show wasn't the best idea. But yeah, you want to figure out what is going on there, and you guys have to talk about it. So maybe I'll chop and then I'll talk, and then you can chop while I'm talking. So if his sex drive is lower due to other factors such as stress and or performance anxiety, then those can also be solved too. You're good to go either way, as long as this person is willing to communicate and compromise, and you are also willing to compromise. Relationships, that's one of the major factors of their success, is people's ability to compromise. When you stick 2 people together and form a relationship with 2 people who have different personalities, different needs, different wants, different expectations, the best way to, you know, make things work is by having these compromises. And I feel like some people look at compromising as something negative, which I find really odd. Compromising does not mean you're compromising yourself. It means you're finding a solution that satisfies both parties, both people, and you know, it gives everyone, it doesn't let one person just completely give up. So you find a middle ground so that both people are happy. That's not compromising yourself. That's compromising for the sake of your relationship, for the sake of your partner. So yeah, don't mistake those two with each other. Okay, so I'm only gonna do half of a fennel bulb. You can do the whole bulb. I don't want to. So now on the topic of compromise, you can compromise about sex. And so you talk about, what do you consider not enough sex? What do you consider too much sex? What is your like perfect amount of sex? And you can actually plan having sex. And again, I've seen a lot of people roll their eyes when they hear about planned sex because, oh, well, it's not spontaneous and it's not sexy and it takes out the fun. Let's be real. You've all planned sex, okay? You've never been on a date and like shaved, paid extra attention to certain areas, cleaned your room in case that person's gonna come back, wore something sexy underneath your clothes. You've all planned sex. So, planning sex it's not like military at 600 hours. Like, that's not how it works. Planning sex can actually be a lot of fun. Like, next Saturday, I want to spend all day, you know, insert comment here. You can do it in a fun and sexy way that's playful, and then it builds up anticipation, and anticipation is a huge turn on for a lot of people. There are also a lot of people who, even though their sex drives might not be the highest, they still enjoy pleasing their partners. So I think it's important to find out if this person is okay with and gets excited about pleasing you. And I know sometimes that can be tough because a lot of people do take a lot of joy in pleasing their partner. So it can be, you know, a little bit, you know, not that great to feel like, okay, well, I feel great, but I am not able to satisfy my partner. So I get that feeling is kind of crappy, but you have to look at it in the way that it's not about you not satisfying your partner. It's about them not being ready for it at that time. And also the interesting thing is too, is usually when things get started, the other person gets turned on, and you can have the opportunity to, you know, do stuff to them too. And that shouldn't always have to mean having an orgasm either. So feeling good is just feeling good, and doing things to each other that feels good is great too, whether a person has an orgasm or not. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm really bad at chopping, so it's not fun to watch. I'm so sorry. Okay, maybe I won't make you watch this part, and then I'll just skip to the next part.
I am assuming that you're chopping too. I would invest in one of those like chopper things, but I find this like therapeutic and relaxing, so I actually like chopping things myself. But maybe for the sake of this channel, I should invest in one since I'm so slow. I feel like some people who already finished doing this are just twiddling their thumbs right now. So speaking of that, we also have to kind of talk about consent, because you don't want anyone to be forced into doing sexual acts to please you. Obviously that's rape. What I'm saying is to check to see if the person actually enjoys it or not. And there's a huge difference there. And it's just about communicating. So don't make them feel like they have to do that. Just check to see if they can or if they enjoy it, because this is the beginning of a relationship. So this will allow you to make a decision based on whether you're okay with feeling sexually unfulfilled and missing that aspect of a relationship in order to be with this person because they have so many other great qualities. But sexual dissatisfaction leads to a lot of issues. So you do need to be satisfied because you deserve to have great sex, but also because you're gonna end up having issues in the long run with your relationship. I feel like I give better talks in my head when I don't feel the pressure of the camera on me. And I'm also not like thinking about, oh, I'm dropping too slow. I'm having performance anxiety right now. Oh man. Okay. Stick those in your bowl. Try to keep your ingredients separated because you're gonna use the onions. Shallots, yes, thank you. You're gonna use your onions or shallots on 2 different occasions, so you don't want everything mixed in together. So just try to keep them separate on your plate. You probably also don't want, okay, sorry, we're doing the red onion. I'm doing half, you can do the whole thing. But yeah, you also don't want someone who's pleasing you sexually. So I'm basically mostly talking about oral sex at this point. But you don't want someone who is just doing it just to get you off. Meanwhile, they're like bored out of their mind. Besides the like consent stuff I was talking about, it's a huge turn off. Who wants to? A big turn on is being the object of desire. So yeah, it's kind of a huge turn off if someone looks like they're like falling asleep. That's no fun. What else do I want to talk about? Okay, so there was something else that was mentioned in the email that I didn't read in the intro, and it was having to do with the need to be desired and feeling like you're not beautiful because this person is not jumping your bones constantly. So I want to talk a little bit about self-esteem. There's a lot of people, toxic people, who say that your self-esteem and a lot of your emotions are solely dependent on you. That is so dangerous because it makes people who are struggling with certain things that they're dealing with and certain experiences and placing the entire blame on them. That is really messed up, and that's how that that certain profession tries to make money off of people, is by creating these unrealistic models, unrealistic expectations. I'm not sure what the word is, but they're creating these unrealistic things and blaming you for it. So if you feel bad about this, it's your fault. It's your fault. You're not doing the work. You're not doing this. Here, pay me more money and I'll show you what you're doing wrong. And then every time you do something wrong, according to them, it's your fault because you're not doing the work properly. No. So self-esteem is not solely reliant on your inner feelings, because you can have great self-worth and still feel low self-esteem because of what's happening in your life. Self-esteem is a relational experience. Relational. That means it depends. That means it's something that you experience with other people, not something that you experience on your own. Self-esteem would not exist if you were living in a jungle completely isolated from society. So self-esteem is based on how you feel about yourself and what is happening outside of yourself, how people treat you, how people talk to you, how if you're bullied, if you're this, if you're that, if you're in a toxic relationship, your self-esteem gets affected. And anyone who tells you different so if you are completely dependent, if your self-esteem is completely dependent on approval from the outside, yes, that's problematic, and it's just as bad as thinking that your self-esteem depends on yourself. So you have to have a healthy balance. Okay, I'm gonna peel my carrot in the garbage bin and then we'll come back and we'll chop that together. So, speaking of sex myths, we've all heard the one that says men have high sex drives, women have low sex drives or lower. Women don't think about sex as much, don't want sex as much. And that is not true. So, another thing I want you to think about is maybe you have a high sex drive and that's great. So maybe it's not even that he has a high sex drive. Maybe you just like a shit ton of sex. Is that so bad? You can masturbate in between. Okay, so carrots are chopped. Now we're gonna chop our tomato. And then when you're done chopping your tomato, rinse off the mussels. If they have beards, pull them out. I don't like buying mussels with beards because if you don't pull the beards out properly, you're actually killing the mussel. If you kill the mussel before cooking, you can't eat it. It releases toxins and will give you food poisoning. There's nothing sexy about fighting over who gets to use the toilet. That's not exactly good foreplay. So you don't want to eat any dead mussels, and you'll know if they're dead by whether they open or not when you cook them. So I usually buy them debearded, or I think depending on if how they're raised or whatever, they might not have beards, I think. So yeah, I usually get my mussels from the fish market or Whole Foods, and if I see some with like beards sticking out, I just ask them to not give me the ones with the beards sticking out. Are they stuck inside and I just don't notice? I don't know. It's quite possible. So yeah, when you're cooking your mussels, if any of them are open, that could be a sign that they're dead. So what you want to do is tap them on a table and see if they close. If they don't close, I would probably toss those out. And then when you cook the mussels, anything that is closed that didn't open after the cooking process, it means it's not safe to eat. And yeah, throw those out. Let's get ready to cook. Okay, so add your butter in the pan. Once it's melted, add half of your onions or shallots, and you're gonna cook for about 2 minutes, but keep an eye on them because you don't want them to brown. You just want them to soften. I actually started doing this and I didn't press record, which has been such a big issue because this is not the first time I've recorded this episode. I think I'm recording it and I actually don't press play. So I've eaten a lot of fucking mussels lately. I'm kind of sick of it actually. See what I do for you? But this recipe is so good, I'll eat it again. Okay, so that was my 2-minute mark. I'm gonna keep it for a little bit longer because maybe 30 more seconds. Okay, that looks great to me. They look soft, but the color hasn't changed. So I'm gonna add the herbs.
I love this meal for a date because it allows for a lot of time to connect. Perfect opportunity to be affectionate, share stories, be curious about each other, ask questions. These are the things that build emotional intimacy. Okay, it's time to throw in your
Peppercorns and the white wine. Oh, that smells so good. And we haven't even done anything yet.
So speaking of emotional intimacy, have you checked out the Gottman Institute card decks? The app is free and it's great for building love maps, great for generating questions, and even exploring sex.
Okay, so we're gonna let this boil. Get your lid ready. Okay, looks like it's boiling, so I'm giving my mussels another quick rinse. Okay, perfect. Add your mussels. Okay, this is not the pan I usually use, so make sure you use a pan that has a proper lid. Turn your heat a little higher, closer to high, and you want to cook it till the shells open. As soon as they open, they are done. Do not try to cook them more. I've gone on dates where guys worked in like kitchens and they'd be like, oh, I want to impress you with mussels, and their mussels were so overcooked that they're rubbery, and just the texture and the changes the taste, and it's so gross. I actually, on one date, I had to go to the washroom and I threw up. So as soon as they're open, it's done. Shake them around. Shake them around every once in a while. This should only take about 3 to 5 minutes. You can already see some of the mussels are opening up. Wait, I guess I should move the spoon. I'm curious, does he show affection in other ways? Does he enjoy hugging, holding hands, kissing, touching, cuddling? As humans, we do need physical contact and touch. If he's not able to provide these and you need them, in my opinion, this might not be the best match. If he does, that's fantastic. Don't take the lid off. I'm just taking it off because I used the wrong pan and my lid is too tight. Get 2 bowls ready and a strainer, because we're gonna strain this out, but we want to reserve the juices. That's done. Okay, with a slotted spoon, transfer your mussels that are open to another bowl. Anything not open, like this one, this is garbage. Cracked shells, this is also garbage. Okay, set this bowl aside. Throw these out. What a shame. I've never had these many not open. Okay, now you're gonna strain this into a bowl. I don't recommend putting it on your stove because it's hot. But yeah, sorry, I don't know how to do this. Okay. Here's your beautiful broth. Okay, use the same pan. Why make more dishes? Okay, add the rest of your butter. You're back to medium-high heat now. Add the rest of your onions or shallots. And do the same thing. You want to cook them, but you don't want them to get burned or colorful or whatever. Okay, that's perfect because I can see that these are getting nice and soft. So we're gonna add our leeks, fennel, carrot, and the thing that makes this dish spectacular is the fucking saffron. Add it now. This is what I forget to do all the time. So this is when you add it. It's your saffron. Having trouble getting this out. You only really need a few strands, but I like a little extra. How often do we use saffron? I know it's expensive, but if you're gonna use it, might as well use it properly. Okay, that's good for me. Okay, stir it up. Oh my god, this smells so fucking good. You can already see the saffron changing the color of the vegetables. So it's gonna make for a beautiful, beautiful broth. Let's cook that for about 5 minutes until our vegetables get a little soft. So going back to the concern of your self-esteem being affected by the lack of his sex drive or motivation for sex, there are other ways to feel beautiful and feel like you are being seen as beautiful by your partner. Sex is not the only way. Does he admire you? Do you catch him stealing glances? Does he verbalize and tell you? If he hasn't done those things, ask him if that's something he normally does in a relationship and if he'll ever verbalize them with you. Because we don't know the reason why he hasn't done those yet. And it could be because, it could be for a number of reasons. Could be because he's shy, afraid of rejection, fear he's coming on too strong, that he'll scare you away. And those concerns are actually valid. Because let's face it, there are people who get scared easily. And I'm going to get back to that in 1 second. If you bought bread, what you can do in the meantime is cut it up if you want to use it for dipping. Okay, back to what I was saying. Here's the thing with a lot of people who date. They don't go for the person who is emotionally available and shows interest, because that's not enough of a challenge. When someone seems like a challenge, but they end up choosing you, your brain releases chemicals that make you happy. You feel special and get a self-esteem boost. So you become addicted to that feeling of getting someone who seems so unattainable. But usually these relationships don't last, and a pattern develops to get the same feeling by going for that same type of person. That's a pattern that needs to be broken. So I think it's important to do a lot of self-reflecting. And also, this is one of the things that therapy is great for. So you can explore these issues with a therapist and can help you see things from a different perspective and uncover patterns that maybe you didn't realize and help you figure out ways where you can break these patterns. And I can't stress this point enough. When you're looking for someone to help you with these things, please find a regulated professional. I also, for therapists, especially when it has to do with things with relationships, I would choose someone who is Gottman certified, and you can find them by going on the Gottman Institute's website, typing in your postal code, and it'll give you a list of professionals that you can do a consultation with, an interview, and see if you feel comfortable talking to them. I also want to add, I am not doing this to try and get more clients or anything like that. I am not Gottman certified. I would love to be. I was planning on doing it, but then the pandemic hit and finances have been tough, so I cannot take the courses. I hope to be certified one day, but yeah, that's not the goal of this. I'm just trying to share food and advice I think might be helpful, but again, like I always say, take what I say with a grain of salt, because I don't really know the full story, and this is for entertainment purposes only. I have to emphasize that too. Okay, so I want to talk about something that people can tend to do when they're looking for a long-term partner and they just start dating someone, is that they start nitpicking at so many different things, and things that are actually not really important for a long-term relationship. And surprisingly, looks and finances are two of the things that people highly prioritize, but they're actually not the most important qualities to look for in a relationship. And the same thing goes for sex. And hang on one second. Yeah, I'm putting my oven on because I want to bake my bread just to get it a little toasty on the outside. Okay, back to what I was talking about. So research shows that the happiest partners, especially in long-term relationships, when it comes to sex, it's not so much the frequency, it's actually more about the quality of sex. So quality of sex is a predictor of sexual satisfaction in couples. Okay, so our vegetables look perfect. It's been about 5 minutes. So I'm gonna add that reserved liquid and cook that for another 5 minutes. That looks beautiful. As for the other things that I brought out, looks and finances, don't take that comment to the extreme. I am going to link an article on that and a ton of other resources. Sorry, I'm giving you a lot of homework. This is such a hard topic to just explore in a few minutes or whatever, and it's actually taking me so long. And because this recipe is so beautiful and spaced out, I am going to split this episode into 2. And for the second episode, or sorry, for the second part of the episode, I'm going to make them like really quick. So you're not going to have to sit there for another hour or two. I'll just do like a quick video of how to do things, and then you can just follow the instructions that I provide. So here's just one of the things that makes placing our self-worth and our self-esteem on others, like this is one of the things that makes it problematic, is you choose the wrong partners that way. So I want you to think about this for a second. If you end up being with like a lot of players and notice that you tend to date a lot of players, or womanizers, or whatever you want to call them. I mean, they are called players for a reason. They know how to manipulate and get what they want. So just because someone is very sexual towards you, don't take that too personally, and don't let that reward you so much. Because they probably do that with a lot of people. So I'm not gonna put this gently, but hold on. Because I do feel like if it wasn't you, it would have been someone else, and all that love bombing would have gone to someone else. So is that really an indicator of how attractive or desirable you are? No. So just be careful of these patterns. Okay, so it hasn't been 5 minutes yet, but I feel like the vegetables are at a nice soft texture. So I'm gonna add the chicken stock and let that come to a boil. What do they say? Never watch a pot and wait for it to boil. So don't stare at this. Go make out with your date. Okay, the soup is bubbling. I'm just gonna consider that boiling. So stir in your corn flour again, because for sure it got tough. So you want it to not be so sticky. Okay, let that cook for about 5 minutes. It's never happened to me before where it's clumped up like this. So if it's happening with yours too, just break it apart with your spatula and then mix.
Okay, add your whipping cream. Add your mussels back in. Add your tomato. Time to plate.
Dear Sexually Frustrated, I hope you enjoyed making this meal and appreciated all the flavors even if it didn't turn out to be perfect. Just like I hope you can appreciate a person even though they aren't perfect. Remember, no one is. And keep in mind that when it comes to sex, quality over quantity. I hope I gave you some advice that gets you to think and will help you make a decision. From Rasha with Love.
Than any physiology of sex and any repertoire of sexual techniques. The interesting thing about us human beings is that we can anticipate, we can dream, we can think, we can imagine, and we can have blissful experiences around sex and do absolutely nothing. Because we have an erotic mind. We can hint at it, but we don't have to actually do it. And that is the fundamental difference. Eroticism is sexuality transformed by our human imagination. It is what gives meaning to sex. It is the socialization of sex versus the act. And much of the work we often do is trying to help people have sex. But come on, so many parts of the world where women have sex because that's part of their duty and they feel nothing. Doing it has never been a guarantee for experience. Experience doesn't demand much doing. That's really part of the shift that we're going to be learning.